Do you guys remember Jimmy Neutron? Well, I do. And I just finished my rewatch. A lot like SpongeBob and Fairly OddParents, I'm here to break down my thoughts. I'm here to break down where it went, why it happened, how it happened, and genuinely just the overview of Jimmy Neutron, a boy genius. In 1995, a sketch was self funded, self made, called Runaway Rocket Boy or Rocket Boy Runaway, something along the lines of that. And it caught Nickelodeon's eye. Quite literally, it interested them enough to where they were willing to put up the capital behind it that it was going to be the front runner for Nickelodeon for a long time. They planned on making this thing huge. And for a while it was. In the early 2000s, they released his first movie, Jimmy Neutron, A Boy Genius, and it did gigantic numbers. It did great. So that prompted them for a follow-up TV show, Jimmy Neutron, A Boy Genius. And the TV show is what I'm here to talk about today. It was one of Nickelodeon's first full CGI animated projects. And for a while, it was going to be, like I mentioned, their star, their big, bright super show that they thought was going to project them to the top of the charts, and it did. Jimmy, Carl, and Sheen became merchandising gods, and the show seemed to be doing really well. That is, until early 2004. 2004, the show kind of bit off a bigger chunk than it could chew. With it being fully CGI animated, the episodes took a long time. Back then, they couldn't render CGI as fast as they could nowadays. And so Jimmy started to trip over his own shoelaces. Started to fumble in the sense that SpongeBob was becoming super popular and easy to animate, and the live action shows like Drake and Josh, soon to be iCarly, and Keenan and Kel, and things of that nature were taking off. They were showing mass potential, and they were a lot easier to make. So inevitably, those became popular, and Jimmy Neutron became shadowed. With the shadowing of Jimmy Neutron, something happened. A disconnect happened. The studio behind Jimmy Neutron did not necessarily know what to do or where to go next. They kept producing episodes, but could not keep up with the pace that Nickelodeon was demanding of them. And shortly thereafter, I believe 2006, 2007, 2008, somewhere in there, Jimmy Neutron officially got the axe. The show was no longer going to be produced, and there was no reasoning behind it. Jimmy Neutron was just simply taken off the air for easier to animate shows, live action shows, different projects that Nickelodeon was chasing. For a while, it was completely done. The IP was shut down, and nobody ever thought they would see those characters again. That is until Planet Sheen came out in 2008. In 2008, the show, Planet Sheen, followed Sheen, one of the more popular characters from Jimmy Neutron, as he took a ship to this alien world and became a local member, became kind of like an anomaly. These aliens didn't know what to do, and the show kind of followed that. Let me tell you, I did watch Jimmy Neutron, and I did watch Planet Sheen. Planet Sheen was probably one of the hardest things to watch that I have ever seen in my life. I remember watching it back as a kid, and I didn't enjoy it then, and I tell you something, nothing has changed. I did not enjoy it today. Jimmy Neutron is a great show. If you go back and watch it, I highly recommend it because it holds up. It's a clever cartoon about this boy who, works on computers before computers were even modernized the way they are in today's day and age. I don't even believe a smartphone, I know the iPhone was out around this time, but in the sense of, Samsung and Google and all of those smartphones weren't even out yet. People still had to rely on desktop computers to access the internet for the majority of the people. So Jimmy Neutron was taking leaps and bounds. Why it got canceled, no one knows. Like I mentioned previously, the show kind of just dropped off the air for the likes of SpongeBob and, the other Nickelodeon projects presented at the time. Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius just stopped existing. It went from this front running, amazing project to something that Nickelodeon, quite honestly, didn't even care about. And after the release of Planet Sheen, the studio behind both animations got shut down. They stopped working on animations altogether simply due to the rise and fall of Jimmy Neutron. Personally, I don't think it should have gotten the axe. If it were me, I would have pushed the show just a little bit further. I would have canned Planet Sheen. I would have never even released episode 1 of Planet Sheen, nor would I ever even have storyboarded it. If you're unfamiliar with the animation process, the first thing that gets done is the storyboard. I wouldn't have even greenlit the storyboard for Planet Sheen. What I would have done is I would have kept the show cooking. I would have kept the show exactly the way it was, moving through the world of Retroville and moving through the life of Jimmy Neutron. A lot of the episodes were fantastic, like the hamburger place in outer space. I think it was called Slappy's. Slappy's, getting moved to outer space after things happen on Earth, and I'm not going to try to spoil any of the episodes, but you have the oh so iconic pants episode where blue jeans came to life and Jimmy had to brain blast to figure it out. It's a very lighthearted and entertaining show, and so I would have just kept it pushing, right? Nowadays, in 2025, CGI quite literally takes minutes to render. So if they were able to keep it going for quite literally a little bit longer, I believe Jimmy Neutron would be just as big as SpongeBob, and Nickelodeon would be just as greedy with the dollar sign behind Jimmy Neutron. I don't believe that it got what it deserved, right? He was once this super big icon that pushed the limits of what was possible, right? I always enjoyed watching the show Saturday mornings, eating a bowl of cereal. The theme song alone is iconic. It is very sad to see that when a big corporation is done with something, they kind of just throw it away like hand-me-down toys. They kind of just move it to the side like a piece of garbage. When they no longer see potential in it or it becomes too much to manage, they simply rip it up and throw it away. And like I aforementioned, the same thing happened to Jimmy Neutron. And to me, that's unfair. Right? Nickelodeon has done a lot of things. They have been responsible for iCarly, Drake and Josh, SpongeBob, and an adaptation of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, one of my favorites, and Jimmy Neutron. Right? They have the capital from these large major shows to push Jimmy Neutron out there, to continue making episodes. But maybe it's for the best. Maybe we would have seen, and they quite honestly started to do the exact same thing they're doing with SpongeBob. Find as many dollar signs as they can throughout the show and force the viewers to consume this slop they call animation. They call your beloved cartoons. And so maybe it was a good thing Jimmy Neutron died. Maybe it was a good thing that he climbed to the mountain, realized the sight was beautiful, but he also realized everyone has to come down. Maybe Jimmy Neutron ending was for the best, and maybe we don't need another season. However, please let me know how you feel in the comments about this. I personally would be okay if they just revived the show. No spin-offs, no crazy new Carl and his bunch of llamas or Planet Sheen season 11 or however many things they could potentially produce. If they were just to revive Jimmy Neutron, I think that'd be pretty cool. But, as always, this has been The Kevin Show. please like, subscribe, comment down below, and let me know what you think of the video. Until next time, you guys have a wonderful night. And the next episode of Kevin's Show will be on its way.